Good morning, everyone. This is Luda Kopikina with GAI Insights, where we rate AI news daily, essential, important, and optional. Thank you for joining us today. And you could actually follow along and read the articles. They are posted on GAI Insights slash articles. So today I have Adam, Tim, and Ankash. Small crew, but very powerful crew. And we have a number of very interesting articles with several new models introductions. Okay, so let's start with the first one. Ankash, please.
Sure, Luda. So the first one that we have for today comes from Liquid AI, and they are introducing their Liquid Foundation model, 7 billion parameter model, which is setting new standards for efficient language models.
Yes. And this is a local Boston company, MIT Media Lab. Adam, what do you think?
I thought this is interesting. And again, right, we're seeing innovation extending beyond typical transformer architectures and finding new ways to approach some of these problems, in this case, specifically language. It supports a bunch of languages. It's very small. You can see from the performance charts that it's the latest model. Go figure, it's doing better than all the ones that have come before it. That's a pretty continuous and consistent trend. So I consider this optional. I'm trying to play through what this is going to mean in the broader scope, but so far it seems like even though it's a different architecture, it's really an incremental improvement in terms of what we're getting out of this size parameter model.
Okay. Tim, you got your computer rebooted. What did you think?
Yes, well, my computer decided it rebooted itself. I had nothing to do with it. More autonomous agents already than we really
I was going to say.
Yeah, I agree. This is we've been talking about Liquid for a long time. We had another model yesterday. We're going to talk about another one later today. So this is my dog catches car moment meme. We just are at the very beginning of this. The algorithms are undergoing radical development. That's a terrible phrase. Rapid development all the time, and this is another example. Liquid we've been talking about for a while because it uses a sequential time series based analysis, which gives it a couple of advantages. In particular, it uses a whole lot less memory. So this thing is suitable for edge cases. That's going to be a big deal if this works out, and it looks like it's working okay so far. These are small models. They haven't even built a large model, and they're slightly exceeding the performance of most of the comparable small models. So kudos to them for getting this done so quickly. I mean, this company was just founded a few months ago. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens. The other thing is these models, in theory, can learn on the fly much more easily. They're not as statically based in a huge data training set as the traditional transformer models. So exciting moment. I would say important. In this case, it's a short article, and it's important for people to be aware that there are things coming.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tim. I was going important for the reason that you just said. It's a new architecture. It can learn in real time. It's comparable, all right, but it will be very well on the edge, and they've tested it, and it does work, and it learns in real time with much more cost efficiency because of the memory architecture. So I think folks need to be aware of that, because this will push boundaries, I think. So I was going important. Adam, okay with important?
It's a democracy.
Okay.
What's the AI leader going to do with this information?
Just be aware if they need a model on the edge and they want it to learn in real time, they want to optimize the resources, this is the model to consider.
That's fair.
Okay, important it is. We twisted Adam's arm. Okay, let's proceed.
Okay, the next one that we have for today, it comes from DeepSeek. So DeepSeek has launched their paper around the R1 model.
Yeah. So, Tim, what did you think about that one?
This is a longer and more complex article, but I would rate this important. Again, important means you don't have to read it, but over the weekend, if you have time, take some time to read this article. You don't have to read the details of the benchmarking if you're not interested at that part. But this group from China has really done some innovative things, and they've created a model here that is, they claim, close to on par with O1 and potentially close to O3 in reasoning capability, using far less resources and quite a different set of mechanisms to put the model together. In particular, done with much less supervised training, as it's called, or fine tuning, the post training that gets done on these big models, and using some other techniques that are mostly automated and mostly learning itself. So we don't have good non-anthropomorphic words, so we'll talk about it like a human at some level. We say it learns itself, it reflects, it develops cognitive traits. That was the most surprising thing, was that without any ingestion of models or training, it learned cognitive techniques like reflection. So quite interesting. And another example of a different type of model. This one is still a transformer-based model at the underlying level, but a very different model in the way that it is fine-tuned and developed.
Yeah, they use reinforcement learning quite a bit here. But at the very, very end of the article, they talk about that they've trained the V3. I think they have DeepSeek V3, and this R1 is not quite the performance of V3 in a number of ways yet, but they're working on that.
Right. The other thing they did that was quite remarkable that I forgot about was they were able to transfer most of the capability from the larger model to much smaller models very rapidly. So again, this is an interesting thing. So you could potentially train a large language model, but then graft that training effectively into much, much smaller models. Really another interesting proposition. So early days, I was on the border of optional because, to Adam's point on the last article, there's not many actions you're going to take today. But I do think it's important to be aware of just how broad the innovation waterfront is.
Yeah. Adam, what did you think?
See, now I think this is important, and I'll say why it's different than the last one. I feel like, given the strength of this, for people who are looking for cost-efficient alternatives to paying OpenAI for O1 reasoning, this is important to know about. It's fully open source, and it's going to really, really open up a lot of potential where people need that full reasoning model for whatever their tasks are. I just feel like this is going to be evolving as a space quicker than on the edge. It's going to take a little longer for us to mature to the point where organizations can really get the benefit out of 7 billion models. I think these big reasoning models and the costs that OpenAI is talking about, this is significant for people to know about.
Yeah, it seems like there's two trends going in parallel. For sure. And you can utilize them in different ways, for sure. The small models on the edge and the large reasoning models. But the transfer of training from one to the other is pretty innovative. And if it works, then there will be cross-pollination between the two. And that's really cool.
And I'll echo what Tim said and reinforce it. Unintentional. It's the key that they're doing the reinforcement learning, which a lot of models do, but without the supervision, and that's what's new here, and that's I think a big step.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Let's put it as important for awareness and understanding that this is a model, open source, and you could take a look at it if needed. Okay. Important. Let's proceed then.
Okay, the next one comes from MIT Tech Review, and it talks about how the second wave of AI coding is here.
Yeah, this is mine. I'll introduce it, but please, Tim and Adam, jump in. So this is a pretty good article on coding using Gen AI. It talks about a number of startups that are pushing the boundary. And essentially, the core message of the article is, look, you could give and train the model a lot of existing code, but it probably wouldn't be good enough until you find a way to give the model an understanding of how you code. You can call it design, you can call it steps of the coding of the software development process. And the article goes through different approaches that startups are taking. One is to actually create a meta language of the coding process, of the software development process, and then train the models of doing that, essentially then developing the code as if the model is the software developer. And then the second one is get the software developers to annotate every step they take. Why did you open this file? Why did you close this file? Blah, 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 blah. And then create synthetic data, lots of it, to train the models in that capability. So we don't know which wins, but the article concludes that this is the beginnings of general intelligence when the models think through how to create code. And you can say it about different tasks. The meta level is important. So I thought this article is optional, unfortunately, for our audience, but interesting. What did you, Tim and Adam, what did you think?
Well, I'm going to make the case for essential. There are two. I mean, it's a good survey article of the startups that are coming around, and as you point out, the interesting approaches. That's sort of interesting to me. If you're looking for coding solutions, maybe more interesting to the AI leader. But there are two things that are hugely important here. One is it's just taken for granted already that we can generate accurate code. That is not trivial. Okay, that you can just say, oh yeah, we're getting to the point where we're assuming that we can generate pretty accurate code, even just at the code level. Forget about the thinking and the organization and the architecture level. If we can generate pretty accurate code most of the time, that is an enormous benefit already. And coding, clearly, at least to me now, is taking the lead as the first area where this is just going to radically change the world. I mean, just radically. And people aren't recognizing because it happens so fast. People are just not keeping up. So it's an assertion, but my anecdotal experience, and called up a couple of friends just over the last couple of weeks to talk to them about this, it appears to be fairly accurate at an anecdotal level. The coding capabilities alone are already unbelievable. So that's amazing. And is going to just transform software development, which, by the way, is part of every corporation in the United States just about at this point, and the world. There is no corporation that doesn't have some critical dependency on IT, and usually at least some local software development, except for very small firms. The second issue, which is what this article is really about, is that there's a whole nother level, which is the design of the code, the architecture of the code, and that the assertion here, more than the reality as far as we can tell, because most of these products are just under development, is we're getting there on the ability to just really take an architectural approach, enter that idea and say, give me a system. And that is astonishing if that can be accomplished this quickly. So this is, to me, is essential, because there's just nobody who doesn't have a there's so many people who have a significant dependency on software development, that being aware of this level of rapid transformation, I think, is essential.
Yeah, I mean, Tim, I I will certainly back you up with that. The reason I was not, I'm a software developer, so I'm very excited about this. But most of our folks are not really into this per se, so that's why I
But
was.
most of them have responsibility,
They
at least
have
at some
responsibility.
level for it.
And another thing I would also say why essential is they're talking about the meta level, this architectural level, and the process level of training the model. And if you think about it, generalize it in a lot of complex expertise tasks, there are two levels of how you're doing it and how you're accumulating knowledge versus the knowledge itself. So if this will transfer as a meta level need to train the models in expertise verticals, I think. So I'm okay with essential. Adam?
If the article had stuck to the points about correcting code and had left out the more speculative side of the pathway to artificial general intelligence, I probably would have given it an essential. I don't want to. My concern in saying it's essential is that people are going to put too much weight on that part of the article.
Yeah.
I do agree that all of the points about the coding are essential, and it is essential that people understand this. I have a guy I know. He was on a call with a client, and they realized that this web app that he's developing for them, they're going to basically sell it as a service. So they need to have ways that there can be like sub accounts that people log into. And he literally went to Bolt, which is one of these web development apps, and he said, "Oh, I need this feature," and then it was like, correct the code, correct the code, correct the code, literally 3 times telling the AI to fix its own work, and then the feature had been implemented in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So what it says here about basically software developers becoming managers of this team of coders is absolutely correct, and it's essential that people understand that.
Yeah.
I felt this article itself was important, but it's an essential trend, particularly in technology review, which is such a respectable common read for people to say, "Oh, I caught this article in technology review. This is what's happening." It isn't just autocomplete in your code base anymore. It's much more sophisticated than that. Is an essential point to take home.
Okay, let's mark it essential. Disregard the notions about AGI at the end.
Yeah, I think we can count on hopefully our audience for being that sophisticated that they're not gonna get too carried away with going to Mars and AGI.
Now, I will say that there are some good points about the fact that as soon as code can start improving itself, we are very much in that acceleration of the acceleration that people allude to with AGI. But whether it's going to be coding models or whether it's going to be through big reasoning models or how exactly we get there, I think the path isn't quite this clear.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We need to pick up speed a little bit. Okay. So essential it is. Let's proceed, Ankash, please.
Okay, the next one is about OpenAI and an AI benchmarking organization, which got funding from OpenAI.
Yeah. Another speculation and stuff about OpenAI. they find those things, don't they? Adam, what did you think?
We can make up some time right here. I mean, the article is basically that allegations have been drawn. Okay, great. You know what? Like, maybe some people aren't happy with things that weren't disclosed, but this is so far from being newsworthy, frankly. I have to say it's optional.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, if you don't think OpenAI does some funny things, then you've been on the wrong planet for the last year. So, it's a classic case of there was some chicanery here. It wasn't even rumored. They admitted it. Everybody admitted what happened.
Yeah, we should have said that sooner.
And but that's, again, I've said this over and over. I don't think it's a great model of the universe to have commercial companies controlling everything. I don't think it's a good idea, and that's where we are. They are controlling pretty much everything. They're so powerful, and so it's not surprising that they might influence things here. We don't even know. It might have been quite innocent, and they might have just said, "Sure, here's some money. We need some better benchmarks."
Yeah.
But they didn't disclose it, and that makes it look kind of tawdry.
Yeah.
But it's not that important.
Optional. Okay. Optional it is. Let's proceed to the next one. Ankash, please.
The next one comes from BCG, and it talks about how AI agents are opening the golden era of customer experience.
Yeah. What do you think, Tim?
I think I'm between optional and important. They write good articles. It's a well-written article. It's light on detail and heavy on hand waving and grand suggestions at a high level of what you need to do. But it's like, it's like get your clothes on and go to school. It's not really that helpful. Okay, it's get your act together and pay attention. And it's I guess I'm maybe I'm being a little too pejorative. It's saying John's touted out this model of eat, educate, apply, transform. This has rhymes with that, we might say. It has a lot of those kind of ideas in it, but it's just an idea paper, and the ideas aren't that exciting. The most interesting stuff is the very beginning, where they just talk about the progress that's been made by Amazon and Klarna, which is pretty good. But it gets lost for me after that. So I would sort of lean towards optional, but it's a good framework, and so it's not the worst thing in the world for people to read. It's a well-written article, just light on things that people can really use tactically.
Yeah, I was totally optional, triple optional in my book. It's like we need to write an article. What would be the theme? And then they put it together. It's just like, sheesh. Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, Ankash, if you can scroll down to Exhibit 1, which how agents work. That's probably all most people need to know about the depth to which it covers it. So
there you go.
The user talks to an agent, and then the agent sends out the tasks. Yeah, that's how these things are gonna work. It was pretty vanilla. I'm with you, Tim. When I first started getting into it, and it was talking about Amazon and Klarna, I was like, this could be a really good read. Pull up the popcorn. Let's see where it goes. And then it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah,
it
didn't
very
go.
optional.
Yep.
Okay, optional it is. Let's proceed, Ankash.
Yes, Luda. So the last one that we have for today talks about the rise of super worker delivering on the promise of AI.
Yeah, so this comes from Josh Burson. So he is focusing on HR processes and HR technology, and I think at the beginning of the year he does his overview of what's happening in HR and HR technology. So he claims that this year, the 2025, will be the rise of the super worker. And so this article is about how AI can essentially get us over the hump of the shortage in labor and the like in 2025, and how it will happen. I actually was thinking essential for this one because it has quite interesting insights. If Ankash, you could scroll to the little chart, the figure 2, they talk about redesign and re-engineering and how each person can actually do that these days with the help of AI, and what type of things will be happening. So I think it's a good read, or important, critical read for AI leaders, because those trends will be happening in 25 for sure. So what did you guys think?
I thought I put this one in the same category as the last one. Interesting. It's sort of okay written, but it's very, very high level. If you're in HR, maybe this is worthwhile, but it's not adding anything new, other than it's being very, very, I thought it was also a little bit too cute is the way I would put it when it said, well, there may be some layoffs here and there. And, it hasn't a model of how things are going to go. I'm not even sure I agree with the model, but it's okay. It's, I could be wrong. But it just doesn't say a whole lot in terms of, okay, so what am I supposed to do now? Like they said, IBM is eliminating HR business partners, which is a term that's come of age in the last several years. We did this at the last firm I was at. as HR became more consultants to the rest of the organization and they tried to improve the HR functions. Now they're just saying, well, we just eliminate HR. Maybe.
So Anka,
anyway.
scroll. I'm sorry, Tim, finish. Sorry.
I was in the optional camp on this.
So scroll down to the 5 imperatives for 2025 at the end. So there's some interesting at the end. I think it's lower. So there's some interesting. The reason I was thinking essential is because the redesign is fine. We've heard it for many years, right? But the dynamic talent model and what the thinking about that, certainly the reinventing the pay performance and the culture, but the systemic HR is an interesting message as well. So I think there are several key takeaways here that I think people need to be thinking about. That's why. But I guess I am with you in some sense. This is not earth-shattering and people should be aware of this. Adam, what do you think?
I was between optional and important, Luda, and you definitely brought me up into the important camp. I think that one, was it figure 1 it was called? Or figure 2, sorry, right? The evolving job redesign is good and it's worth taking a look at. Overall, though, I found that, I mean, did either of you put in your name and email address and actually get the report? Or did you just read the article about the report?
I was
tempted. I find mostly what he's trying to do is capture leads.
Right.
There's a form here. Also in the fifth recommendation there is accelerate the shift to systemic HR, which is their system, which is on another page where you put in your email and you can learn about it.
Right.
So I saw through it a little too much to really feel like
talking his book, as we say. All these references to all these things that,
but there is some value in there at the same time. So I ended up in the
yeah, it's okay. It's an okay written article. Again, for an AI leader, they could be a consultant to this, but the AI leader is probably going to be more focused on, look, use this thing to create job descriptions and improve your thing, rather than I'm going to reorganize HR and pay. Okay, that's not going to happen in the near future. So,
those recommendations are monolithic. Like they're really hard things, and it's great advice, but good luck.
But Vivek is arguing it's the mentality that matters. Looking at this whole organization and trying at the C level, right? Looking at your organization and trying to understand what can be done, where training and pushing would actually dramatically change the performance of the organization. It's the mentality that matters, and that's kind of where I was. Okay, should we do it important? Tim, you can go to important.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, important it is. So thanks, Vivek. Let's bring up the scoreboard, Ankash, if you could, please. So we have 1 essential, 3 importance, and 2 optionals. And that was a great discussion, going back and forth. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Adam. And thank you, audience, for your comments. Really appreciate it. So we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye. Thanks.